So let's do another Transformers Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformers Slag podcast, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a half-decent job. Check out the Patreon link below, pinned comment, or in the description. You could find it down there. What does it get? You get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment. Moving forward, gets you access to the Transformers Slag podcast Discord. Everyone who's been to that Discord loves that Discord. A lot of cool stuff there. We share deals, we share finds, we share cool stuff, we share art, we share lore. We share a lot of things. Be sure to check that out. And of course, depending on what tier you're at, you might even be on the Patreon listener question. We got a Patreon listener question from longtime patron Cringe McCringle, and he wants to know, and I kind of waited to do this one because of the timeliness of this question. Hey Proto, just thought of a potential Patreon listener question for you. With all the recent controversy surrounding the HasLab Rancor and looking like it won't get backed, again, timing is everything with this question, as well as the Skystriker Haslab, would it be safe to assume that Transformers has been successful with HasLab will get another project? If so, who, what, when do you think would it be? So, obviously I waited to answer this one because there was a lot of drama and controversy, like Cringe McCringle is saying here, in relation to those two HasLab items. Now, historically, up to this point with HasLab, the only item that had ever failed was that of the Cookie Monster. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that one didn't do well, but it's also going to be a lot of the reasons why some of this other stuff didn't do well. So, as of this recording, the Skystriker has been funded. And as of this recording, the Rancor has failed to be funded. Now, I don't want to get too crazy into it, and the reason why, I guess, those two brands have their ups and downs, but it is going to be kind of in relation to why Transformers is doing well and why it'll continue. So, I don't want to make this about Star Wars and G.I. Joe, but it is important to answering this question. The Rancor, the reason why it didn't do well, what I firmly want to believe, there's a lot of different explanations. Oh, the tiers weren't that good or this and that. I mean, the tiers weren't that good on Star Saber either, to be honest. But I think ultimately in the end, it just had to do with how many fans you have against how frequently you're going to expect people to spend that kind of money. HasLab items are not cheap. They're all over the place, but they're starting usually at $200, $300, $400 items. And Star Wars was the first HasLab. They gave us that barge in 2018, 2019. They gave us the Razor Crest from 2020, 2021. And now we had this Rancor. And I think that the Black Series Star Wars fans, with all the other stuff that's coming from Star Wars, let alone just Black Series, but just Star Wars in general, all the stuff that comes out from Star Wars. I used to say it even back in the day, being a Star Wars collector would make you broke if you tried to collect it all. It's impossible. Impossible. Being a Transformer collector is almost, it's almost realistic at this point, except for some of the Michael Bay craziness. So that's why I think the Rancor didn't do well. It's just there wasn't enough people with the wallets for something like that after just one after another of these big high-ticket items in a world today where still some people have not recovered their financial situation that we live in today. Now, the Skystriker, the reason why it succeeded was there was a lot less expectation of it. It was something where it's like, okay, we're going to need 10,000, which is a lot more than expected for most HasLab stuff, whether it be Unicron or whatever. They're like, we need 10,000. And the thing is that seemed like a tall order compared to something like Unicron that was like 8,000, or even like the Rancor, which I believe the Rancor they were asking, I think it was like 9,000 or something, but they were asking 10,000 for that Skystriker. But it did well primarily because Joe fans have nothing else to buy. They have their classified series. They have once in a while some kind of side item or something, like a Jada Metals thing or whatever. There isn't a lot of G.I. Joe product coming out. And I mean, if you're someone who wasn't a fan of the Snake Eyes movies and you didn't buy any of that, that's even less. So you were able to kind of take everything of your spending and focus it into one area, which would be the Skystriker. Now, granted, there was fears that the Skystriker wasn't going to do well, but literally in that last couple of days, in those last couple hours, it found its way because all those Joe fans that were on the fence that had that money came in at the last second, much like a lot of HasLab stuff and even Kickstarters. It's usually the last couple of days where you see the biggest swell. So that then goes to the question, we have one item that didn't do well, we have one white item that did do well, and currently right now on HasLab, as of this recording, we have the Ghostbusters Plasma Series Proton Pack that is already funded. That didn't have any problem. But again, Ghostbuster fans, what else did they really have to be dumping their money in? Star Wars is a brand that just has so much coming out. And that's why I had to talk about this little story before we get to Transformers. So the question is, will they do another Transformer thing, and what would it be? Yes, they will, for sure. Victory Saber was successful and will be shipping out in winter of 2022. I believe they said November. But the question is, what would it be and how soon would it be? I think they're going to, just like how, Unicron came out and they gave us about a good year and a half. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing. We're going to have a good year and a half from that, and then they're going to plan the next product because they need to give people time to have those wallets recharge. And much like Star Wars, Transformers is one of those brands that has tons of product coming out, tons of Hasbro Generation Selects, tons of retail product. Not to mention, by the time some kind of let's say HasLab item comes out, we're going to be like knee deep in a Rise of the Beast movie. We're probably going to have our next cartoon line. We're probably going to have our next Netflix series, all the while at the same time having studio series and whatever will be the next part of Legacy. There's going to be so much money. And I'm not even, if we go knee deep into bots and everything else that's going to be happening around that time, to then drop a HasLab item, which is going to probably be starting between, like I said, $400 to $600, $700, you gotta be smart with it because the wallet could only take so much strain. And I feel that whatever they will decide, and I have a few ideas, which I'll get into in a moment, but whatever they do decide, they're going to have to time it well because people are going to be spending money. And the worst thing is to kind of distract people from buying other things. Hasbro wants to get all your money. So the worst thing to do is put out a HasLab item, and then you put that money into a HasLab item, but now you don't have money to buy the Rise of the Beast stuff that you wanted to buy. Or you couldn't buy the latest generations, whatever. So they want to get all your money. So it's better to kind of spread it out and be able to do that than, there's also the scenario, it's the finite time where the HasLab item comes out and they know, oh my God, I got to get that HasLab item because if I miss that window, I'm screwed, so that you put the money into the HasLab item. And then you wait on the Rise of the Beast stuff or the other stuff, and that stuff goes on clearance. And going on clearance never helps the brand because all it does is tell the retailer, oh, it doesn't sell well, so we need to buy less of it from, Hasbro later. So it's something where they don't want that situation either. They want that you buy it full price when it first comes out and it empties the pegs right away. That way, Walmart and Target run out to get more cases of it ASAP. And they want it that you buy the HasLab item so they make their money there and they can continue that kind of thing. So I think, honestly, we probably won't see a HasLab item until probably 2023. I want to believe that. If they do it too early, it's the snake eating its own tail. It's going to be too much. It's going to be too much, and it's going to be too many people not having enough money, especially during movie hype. To release Victory Saber during a time where we didn't really have much fiction of anything, yeah, that'll work out. But to release it during a year where we do have that stuff, where we do have a movie, where we do have a TV series and everything, people are going to put that money elsewhere, or they won't have the money at all in that 30-day to 45-day window that some of these fundings have to be happened. So that's the first part. I think there will be something, but I think it'll be 2023, just because it's just the wise thing to do. Next thing is, who could it potentially be then? Who's the next big ticket item? Well, it has to be big. It has to be something bombastic. Look at everything we've gotten thus far with HasLab, whether it be the Marvel stuff or otherwise. It's always big, bombastic characters that sometimes probably wouldn't work for retail, even though if I argue that Starsaber, because of the way that he works with combining, could have worked for retail. But, you know, some of the other guys like Galactus and obviously maybe even the Rancor, and of course when you get to the sail barge and stuff like that, retail in this modern day and age would have not been able to carry that. Transformers is a little more different and transformative for something like that. But in terms of characters, well, I mean, the first one that everyone always says is Primus. That Primus is something that could be on the table. But if they did do a Primus, it couldn't be Unicron size, and it couldn't be Unicron's price, because Unicron already was kind of pretty tight to the wire to get that to happen. And that's an iconic 1986 character. The only way I could see Primus happening is if they kept it the same height, they'd have to lower the numbers that they'd have to achieve, and maybe even the price. It'd be very difficult, but the only other explanation I could give is that they make Primus significantly smaller, and we have something that's maybe a Titan class, but it's on HasLab, and it's just cheaper and hopefully more affordable, and maybe the tiers that they could put, like let's say moon bases or, you know, mini figures or something like that, that could add to it to kind of like grease the wheels. That's one way I could see it. But that's one character. After that, then you have to really ask yourself, who else really belongs in something like HasLab that doesn't belong in retail? Because to say any like big combiner, that could fit in retail. That's something you could sell those individual pieces and be able to do retail for it. Look what's happening. We already have our Menasor coming with Legacy. So already any big combiner is kind of like written off. So there really isn't much big, crazy characters that could be done. And then when you get into the really niche stuff, maybe, you know, Transformers Zone Volinger, or, you know, maybe Majin Zarek from Beast Wars 2, then you're getting so obscure that you're losing entire audiences that would have probably got this if they at least knew what it was. Going back to Star Wars, everyone knows who the Rancor is within the Star Wars community. They saw those movies. Anyone who's an X-Men fan or a Marvel fan knows what a Sentinel or Galactus is. Anyone who's a G.I. Joe fan knows what the Skystriker is. But does every Transformer fan know who the main villain from Transformers Zone is? Does every Transformer fan even seen Transformers Zone? Let alone, you know, some of the other stuff. Starsaber, why he kind of had his shaky stuff, was because despite the fact of him being the face of the Transformer Victory brand and the leader of the Autobots, doesn't really have a well-known mainstream knowledge from Transformer fans. I would have to say literally 50% of Transformer fans, I know that sounds like a lot, but literally 50% of fans don't know who that character is or even have seen an episode of him. And whatever they're going to go with afterwards has to have at least more than what Starsaber does in terms of name recognition and what fans would want. And then you kind of have to start, you know, penny and diming and figuring out everything else when it comes to what are you going to charge? How much is this going to be? What are going to be the bonuses? What is the number that you're going to have to achieve to make this happen? But that'll all be stuff they're going to make that decision and that call in 2023. That's when that's going to happen. They're probably already planning it right now, but it's really something that when they do drop whoever that character is, a timely manner will lead to its success more than anything else. And doing it during a Beast year would not be wise. You know, you could do Majin Zarek from the Beast Wars second movie and go, but we'll do it during the Beast year. Yeah, no one knows who that character is. Yeah, the hardcore fans do, but no one else does. And if you ask $8,000 for Majin Zarek, who never got a toy, and you could try to sell it like that, it's going to be a tough sell. You know, it's going to be a tough sell. So there's a lot, you know, people could say, what about, you know, Tidal Wave? We could do a massive Tidal Wave figure. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that would have liked that as a retail item from Titans, you know, like we still have to have a Titan class every year. So don't take that away, you know, so you could still have like a character like Tidal Wave. And Tidal Wave 2 is a little bit modular. He's also one of those characters that you could almost, dare I say, sell him across multiple platforms in order to achieve it too. He's a modular character, the original Tidal Wave Armada toy. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to like consider. Again, it's a deep question that is really hard to make a call on, but really just based on what has been happening recently, it's going to be a 2023 thing, and it's got to be something smart. It really has, because whatever it's going to be, it's got to be good. Will we get another HasLab for Transformers? Of course. It's money. Is it, in the same way that, look, the Rancor failed with Star Wars, but I still think they're going to do another Star Wars HasLab. They'll figure out something. But it probably won't happen next year. Maybe it'll be the year after that. There'll be a 2023 Star Wars item. And they'll make a better decision and give enough time for fans to recover their wallets with all the other stuff. But I hope that answers the question more or less. And I hope that you might have learned something from it. And again, if you want to be like Cringe McCringle and ask a Patreon listener question, help support the podcast, and just hang out with the robots in disguise, patreon.com/protoman, or check the pinned comment or description below. And rock out, like I said, with the robots in disguise.